This is The Unsweetened Truth with Kristen Pucci, where we talk about everything but don't sugarcoat anything. Welcome back to The Unsweetened Truth with Kristen Pucci. Today, we have a fun colleague and friend. We connected years ago and have stayed in touch ever since. She hit me right between the eyes in one of our first meetings, and I loved it.
Not physically.
Emotionally, and I loved it. So we've ever kind of, stayed in touch ever since. And I remember from the first time meeting you and discussing things with you, I remember you saying things like, I understand her. You were like, she's a high D. I get what she needs. I always love that about you. But so I'm going to have her introduce herself. She is brilliant. She's well known in this area and outside this area. But Kate Kohler.
Yes, thank you, Kristen. And I heard of Kristen's name over and over and over through the years. And I just kind of watched her journey from afar. And I thought, I'm going to know her one day. And because I was her back in the day. I'm a little older than Kristen. So maybe you can get these wrinkles out too for me when you edit this. But no, I knew right away that Kristen was special. And I thought our paths are going to cross because the people I was connected with that I had a lot of respect for, many of them would say your name. And
vice versa.
Oh, you should talk to Kristen. And I said, I know. I'll just put that on the shelf.
It'll happen. It's funny how it just happens.
It always does. When you're meant to be connected with the right people, the right people cross your paths. And when it's time, it's time. And we're here on the couch, cozied up with blankets, which I love. Yeah. Just chit-chatting now.
Yeah, I accidentally, for the people that aren't here, which is all of you except for us, my house heat was set on 60. Don't know how it got there. So we're under blankets today, but we're going to have some.
Absolutely.
And the topic that we're going to talk about, which is going to be the topic that we talked about years ago, but I think there's so much more to say, is the concept of haters, head trash,
others' opinions,
thoughts of you, opinions of you, thoughts of yourself because of other people's opinions, and just kind of unpacking that. I think one is just a professional, one is just a human, but also one is a female in business.
And a direct person in business. That's where a lot of that comes from that we've talked about in the past. So all those things and being direct comes off very different for many who aren't as direct or maybe not as confident in who they are. So, yeah.
And I just said that to someone yesterday that I was like, I'm very much, I say this a lot, but I'm very much so someone that I feel I'm either loved or I'm hated. There's not some people who are like, Kristen's, she seems, like, there's not really any of that. It's just like, I really like her. Or it's like, oh my gosh, she's horrible. Like, I can't even imagine. But I have a personality such as kind of like yourself that it's like, that's how we lead with our full selves.
I think because we're so transparent, that's where people get hung up. They don't believe it's true. I've had people stop me because I'm not as direct. I'm not direct. I've had to teach myself how to be direct throughout the years through certain tools to say what's on my mind, to not sugarcoat things.
Yeah.
And I'm so happy and positive all the time. I had a woman who's very direct and skeptical stop me dead in the middle of a session one time. And she looked at me, she goes, can I just ask you something? And she's cocking her head. And I said, sure. Are you always this happy or nice? Are you really this nice? I said, oh, you must have asked for a reason. Where did that come from? And she said, I just I don't buy it. I said, well, I can understand that because there's a lot of
miserable
unhappy people in the world, but I come from a life of you change your perspective, you change your life, and you control what you can. And I know a lot of people who have terrible hardships and tragedies, and I am so blessed, so I'm grateful for every day I have. So why am I going to stress on negativity and being miserable when I am a blessed person in this world? And you can be negative or you can be positive and happy and just go about your day. So I know people think I'm fake or I'm aloof because no one's that smiley. No one's that happy. But let them, if that's what they're going to hold against me, she's too nice or she's too happy, then let them, right?
Yeah, if that's the worst thing. Now, I've never been accused of too smiley or too happy.
I too direct, too blunt, right?
I've never, like, someone gave us a review one time and it was like, Kristen's a joy to work with. And I was like,
really?
I think I'm kind. I think I'm fun. I think I have a lot of energy, but I don't know that joy is like, do you know what I mean?
You're bubbly. It is. You're passionate.
Yeah,
and I think that's where they get that joyful passion, right?
But the word joy just made me think of like joy. And I was just like, that's so not me. But
and that's where people, so I said, I'm not direct. So people would never say, oh, she's a straight shooter.
But I would see you as that.
I am.
Yeah.
And because I say what's ever on my mind and I just put it out there because I think of having real conversations is when you get to real stuff. So I don't lie to people. I tell them what I'm really thinking.
You challenge them.
And I let them know it's never in judgment. Here's my thoughts on that, but that has nothing to do with how I feel about someone doing something differently or how you're living your life. And people, I think because I'm so straightforward and so open, I mean, we're open about mental health challenges in our family. We're open about the struggles that we've gone through. We're open about our wins. We're just such an open kind of family that I've come from that people look at that and it can't be real until they get to know you and see you. And consistency always wins if you keep having your consistent, authentic self.
Yeah.
So.
And I think something, as you were just talking, that I've had to learn is that people don't want... Well, let me back up. I am someone who's very focused on becoming better. I don't see myself in competition with other people. I see myself in like competition with myself. And I'm like, okay, last year I was this year I want to be this. Or I wasn't working. Like the whole Cray team is on a very like wellness kick, which I'm so proud of everyone for being that. I used to I was very on like the food and supplements. Gina was like the workout, but like the whole team now is just like absolutely killing it with being active. And like, it's just funny to me that like through just my own team and some of my clients and friends and whatever, I've made this assumption about people in the past that they want to be as good as I want them to be.
Then you'll die trying thinking
Literally.
that, right?
And like,
I used to do it all the time.
And that they want the type of growth and stuff that
Most
I want.
never will.
And they don't. And like, that makes me
it's uncomfortable.
so sad.
They're in comfort zones.
I know. And it just makes me so sad because I'm like, I just feel like I'm someone who's really lived. I take chances. I do challenges. And like, it's not as hard. But most
people hate chances and risk. And Kristen, that's why I said, I don't know if we were recording earlier, but I laughed and I was thinking, I used to be, so worried about what people thought or helping people and fixing people. And I wanted to help every human I came in contact with.
Yeah.
And then I got to a point, I gave, I helped, but they couldn't help themselves.
Yeah.
And I went through that in personal,
and some people don't even want to.
Exactly.
They don't even want to help themselves. No. And that's the hard part. And then like they have to get to a place that they either do. And like I have to decide that where I'm at. And it's so hard for me because I feel like I just came out the womb wanting to like help and save and like I'll fix. And I know where all that comes from. I've been in therapy for a long time. But like I am at a place now that I really have to challenge myself. That's like, unless you tell me that you are drowning, I am not going to throw you a buoy.
Nope.
I'm not throwing you a buoy. Because you have to have enough self-awareness to go, I am drowning, help. And then I'm like, I'm right there. I'm ready to hop in.
Remember that IR theory we talked about? I think because I've done so much work on not ever being vengeful.
Yeah.
Be shocked by nothing. Be shocked by no one. Don't ever give someone the benefit of getting hooked into their emotions because then they have nothing on you.
Yeah.
So
and then they get so pissed off.
They can't keep fighting.
Yeah.
When someone can't get under your skin, they can't win.
Yeah.
I've always said that. That was like a saying. I used to have this quote board, like a whiteboard wall in my old office at my old home. And if they can't get under your skin, they can't win, and it drives them nuts. Yeah. He or she that angers you conquers you, and that to me, I'm competitive. You're competitive.
Yeah.
And so I'm so competitive. So I'm like, why would I because I used to let people under my skin. I was an emotional basket case back in the day, and I'm thinking IR theory: remain calm, don't get hooked into people's emotions. Your response is everything. So then no one has anything on me. They can't say she acted this way because I just don't react anymore. And I used to be very reactive. So you got to get to a point where people, they don't have anything to hold over you. And now these people, just because you were a certain way with someone doesn't mean that person that you were working with, maybe they didn't deserve for you to be
my
that
best
way with
self.
someone.
Yeah, or they didn't deserve my best self.
Absolutely. And those are the people you do distance yourself from. And it's usually you distance yourself because they did something. But who are they going to point the finger at?
Of course.
Us.
Yeah.
I always say, don't ever go like this.
Yeah.
Always use your thumbs first.
Yeah.
What could have I done differently? What did I do to get us here? Is there anything I could have done better? And at the end of the day, it could be a them problem. And you can't change people. And I used to try. All the time.
Yeah. And you try
all
to
the time.
Fix them. You try to save them. You try to have them see it from your perspective.
And they're still mad at you when they do wrong. And
literally. You could try to literally save someone, give them the sun and the moon and the stars, and then you still fall short.
Or support them or never judge them and still love them. And the minute they're doing wrong, they make assumptions. They're judging me. They did me wrong. They don't support me. No, I don't have any opinion because that's not my place to judge. Your decisions are your decisions.
Yeah.
Do I agree with all of them? No, but I make my own dumb decisions, right? So we always worry about what everybody's thinking, what everyone's doing, what everyone did to me. Why don't we think about what led to them doing that to us? Mm-hmm. Sometimes it's our fault, and people can't fall on the sword very often and say, that's my fault, I should have done better. Mm-hmm. They're looking for someone to blame. So
or like or like I deserved that almost. You know what I mean? Like I deserved that behavior, but they never.
Mm-hmm. You said something about earlier. I'm always waking up. You said wellness journey, things like that. How can I be better? One of our debriefing, easy tools to think about every day in each role that we take on. I'm a mother, I'm a wife, I'm a business owner, I'm a coach, there's a friend, daughter, all these things. Every day I go to bed, what did I do well? What do I need to do better tomorrow? And what do I need to do more of every day? And well, better, more, you keep that in your mindset and you think, okay, what can I avoid that I did yesterday that wasn't great? Most people walking this earth, they don't ever take the time to debrief their actions, their words, their results. So you can't grow when you don't know what's wrong, right?
And that makes me so sad for
I
some
know,
people.
and it used to make me sad in my 20s.
It makes me sad. Like I just, there's such a better way for so many people. But again, they have to come and they have to find it themselves and they have to want it themselves. And I think the point of, like where I always say to people is I was like, you have to get sick of your own shit. Enough to want to change.
That's why we have trigger words. Fudwaka. Frustrated, upset, disappointed, worried, anxious, angry, confused, concerned. When people have those emotions, guess what they're ready to do? Change to not feel like that. My dad used to say when you're cut and you're bleeding, you want to go to the doctor and get fixed. Well, when you're emotionally involved, you don't want to feel that way. But so many people don't know how to get out of the emotions because it takes logic. You can't think logically when you're emotionally hooked into those feelings. So that's where I always say if the world was filled with more calm, rational adults, we wouldn't be so emotionally enraged at everything going on. I mean, turn on the news, turn on social media, turn on anything, and what are people yelling the loudest about? Stuff they cannot control. Stuff that they have no power over at the end of the day. They're mad at somebody or something or this or that. And a lot of those things, they're going to be, right? But what can I do today? And I said this earlier about behavior, attitude, technique. Those are everybody's success factors. You either behave yourself into a good attitude or you don't, right? You either have a strong mindset or you don't. And you either enlist and utilize the best tactics and strategies to go about your day and your role, and you're going to be successful. Other than that, you can't control someone's behaviors, attitude, technique, only yours. So why we fight it?
I know, which like brings me to something that I used to struggle with a lot. I definitely still struggle with it now, but it's people's perception of you, their opinions of you, like almost reputation to a standpoint. And like it's gotten to a point that sometimes and like I have a life coach, she's so funny. She's like, well, when people are saying bad things about you, that usually is a good sign. Like,
but why are they talking, right?
I know, but it's like to like let that actually sink in, because we're still human, right? And like, but to like really let that sink in and just like fully be comfortable with not being liked and by everyone, because you are liked, like, but you're just not liked by everyone. You're actually not liked by most, I would say. And like, getting okay with that, being okay with people saying false things about you. And like, I've really unpacked why things like that have bothered me so much. And like, it's because a lot of my core values and beliefs are honesty, trust, loyalty, and justice. Exactly. So to me, I'm like, that feels like an injustice.
And it should be important to everyone.
And it should be important to everyone.
They are important things.
Correct. So when I hear that somebody's saying something about one of my team members, like one of our clients accused one of my employees of lying, and you would think I had an out-of-body experience. I was like, do not accuse her of lying. He accused her of lying.
Mama bear claws.
I did. But that to me was like, that's you're being dishonest. Yes. It's also injustice. And the loyalty that I have to my team, don't.
That's where I still struggle to this day. I'm really good at controlling. I don't care what people say about me. I got this in my head a long time ago.
But when someone says it about somebody
when you say something about who I love or can't defend themselves or it's unfair to me, that's where I still struggle not to lash out. I am a protector and a mama bear when it comes to it. So don't go after someone who's not going to fight back.
Or my capacity is bigger.
Absolutely.
Like you can poke me a lot, but you poke them once and I'm swinging. Like it's just, I think I just have always naturally had that. And we had a situation recently that like somebody said something about my dad.
Oh my gosh, forget about it. Game over.
I was like, you can say my name.
Yeah.
But get my dad's name
Right,
out your mouth.
right.
Like that was the way. And I saw that and I know that it was put in there on purpose, right, or whatever, because this person, I had protected them for a long time, you know? And it was just, I was just like, oh my gosh. Or just, someone accused one of my employees of lying, or they've accused them of like, well, they didn't get back to me, or they didn't whatever. And like, that could be true. It could be true that
absolutely.
my team had a miscommunication, or they had a, I'm not blindly, I'm not blindly,
No.
attacking people or, protecting my team in that way. But there is a sense of, I know their level of quality. I know how and if there's something that's said about them that's out of character for what I know,
Sure.
I'm gonna sniff around. I'm gonna do a little, but my first thought is not that my team did something
purposely
dishonest.
did something wrong.
Correct.
Because that's the thing where, like you said, I'm going to look into it. I'm going to find, because accountability has to be there. If we did something that we agreed to, we need to take responsibility. But to call people liars and stuff like that and throw them under the bus before all facts are known, it's because they're emotionally involved and they're looking at someone to blame. It just always comes back to whose fault is it other than mine? Or the flip side of it, maybe even when it is someone's fault, my favorite word is grace. Like, give people grace. You got to give yourself grace first. And then if you don't give others grace, we don't know what's going on behind someone's closed doors. I have story after experience where someone was supposed to do something, or there was a commitment, or this was supposed to happen, and everything imploded. I mean, I was working with a prospect that we were talking one day. They were supposed to get back to me, and their business exploded to dust.
Yeah.
You can't make that stuff up. So why am I going to get upset and jump down someone's throat? You didn't get back to me when you said you were going to. Help me understand.
Yeah.
We had an agreement.
That's so good.
I mean.
Yeah. And like, just I used to be somme that, and I still try to be pretty good, but like how they always are like, busiest people get back to you quickest because they're just like used to. But I've really changed with like my response times with some things now.
Good.
Yeah.
Because
I've
I
changed
tell
with
people
my
that
response
all
times.
the time. I say, when we just respond quickly, it's putting a check off the box. Are we responding the best way?
Yeah.
And I always give everybody a 24-hour rule. I let everybody I come in contact with, I probably won't email you back. But if it's going to be longer than 24 hours and I know it, I'll say, hey, I got this. I'm doing it. I'll get back to you with it at such time, because everyone expects emails and text messages to be answered in 2 seconds. Well, who created that reality? We did, by answering right away.
Yeah, we're an immediate culture. And like,
People
so
are
we
gonna
used to have
expect it.
this rule, and I kind of have something similar at Cray, is just like, again, if it's not something that you can solve in 24 hours, you at least need to acknowledge, I received this and I'm working on it. Because if you go a whole 24 hours, it's just not good. But I've even stretched that, even some now, because I feel like the higher you get in business and the higher profile people you work with, there's sometimes that a situation happens. Like, I literally had a text written out yesterday that I was like, this shouldn't be a text. And I was like,
I cut and copied one of my digital messages and I put it in my notes for later.
I was like,
and I said,
we
sit
need
on
to come
that.
back. I know. It's like you get the initial thing and you want to respond immediately. And I was like, no, this is my expectation now. If you send me a message, I need 3 days to think, to be in a better place to respond to you. And then I need another 24 hours to craft my response. Because if I was to immediately to respond to things that are perfect, like sometimes there are things purposely, like it's like a rage bait type situation.
Absolutely.
Like they're trying to get you they poke you. You know what I mean? There's definitely circumstances that happen, because a lot with our talents or, some of our creative projects, like these are high profile people, and it might be an attorney or it might be this or whatever. And like, their job is to poke. Their job is to poke. So you have to be very emotionally even keel, which is hard sometimes.
Not take anything personally. I said it earlier, you let them under your skin, they win. And I'm just too competitive to let people get under my skin and make me angry and make me into someone I'm not, because they're trying to prod and poke and things like that. Let them do that, and it's how you respond or don't respond within 24 hours and sit on it.
Or just never respond.
Right?
But let's talk head trash.
Yeah.
So maybe right now we're not quite as susceptible to head trash as maybe we used to be. But let's kind of unpack some of that.
Yeah, because it's still there. It's always going to live. It's always going to be something that pops in here. I talked about this yesterday at a sales team meeting I was at, and I said, whoever gets head trash, and every person in the room except the one new 20-year-old young man, everyone raised his hand. I was like, don't worry, you just started Monday, you'll get there.
Yeah, by Friday you'll have some head trash.
I said, it'll come, right? You're a little too new. And with head trash, it's all the junk, all the things you shouldn't have up here that like divert your focus from your positive energy, the things you really need to get done.
Truth even
Absolutely.
Sometimes.
So when you have head trash, a lot of times it's assumptions, it's fear, failure. Fear is false evidence appearing real. So when I have too much of that, I can't move on. So when I said I don't deal with that anymore, I'd lie it just might, where it used to live for 3 months, then it was 3 weeks, then it was 3 days, then it was 3 hours. Now it's literally 3 minutes. Because I do that gauge of, did I cause this? Do I need to take accountability?
Is it true?
How did we get here? Is
Am
this
I believing
real?
a lie?
Am I buying into this? What is happening? And the more that I got older and grew and didn't let those things bother me, the less of those situations even occur. So I don't have to deal with them. So when they do come or something weird pops up, I'm like, how did we get here?
Or maybe you don't even notice anymore.
I don't.
That's the thing, too.
I just don't even care.
Yeah, I think part of it is that you aren't looking for it like you used to be. I think when you're younger in your career,
a high need for approval and want everybody to, am I doing this right?
Am I liked? Do people, but that's the environment you grow up in. Like when you're in college or whatever, like you're forced, you want to impress people, you want to make new friends, you want to whatever. Like you have this. And I imagine there's the hierarchy of needs. Things probably shift, I assume, as you get older or whatever. But
you just don't care as much about the little stuff.
Yeah, your desire to be liked and needed by a quantity changes. But I still want to be liked and respected and whatever, but it's by a smaller amount of people that give me the same thing that I give them.
Here's the difference. My husband, he went out to San Antonio with me last week for a conference, and
that's so fun. He travels with you.
He usually doesn't. My sister, Kelly, she is expecting her first grandbaby that was due yesterday, and I said, Kelly, she had her plane tickets last year. I said, I cannot. I sent her a message. I said, I can't let you come with me. It's your first grandbaby. What if that grandbaby?
Did the grandbaby come?
No, I talked to my niece last night. She's dying. So, but I said, we're not chancing that. And I said, what if it would snow? What if we couldn't get back? I said, I can do this. And it was a huge opportunity and a big conference. And my husband,
you're coming.
My husband works for Old Dominion Freight Line, so he can work at any terminal, out of any terminal. And he came with me, and I was a little nervous. And it's always the unknown.
Because he was there?
No, he'd never seen me speak in 24 years, but it was more, I had a little butterflies before this conference because it was so much, and it was so many different moving parts. I was doing a first half, the first couple of days, the second half, I was doing stuff of this conference. It was just our customers that they got me in the door. They were the ones that had this opportunity because the work we do with their family businesses here, and I wanted to do the best job I possibly could.
So and you put a lot of pressure on yourself.
And CJ kept going, why are you nervous? You're like amazing. Like you do this stuff every day. I said, CJ, I'm not worried about, can I do this? I can do this in my sleep. This is a big investment that people make in me anytime they want us to coach, train, speak. I take that so seriously that I put so much pressure on to give them what they paid for, to give them what they invested in.
It's like a rebranded imposter syndrome.
Yeah,
kind of,
it's not even, I don't have that.
Yeah.
I know that I'm great at what I do because I've done it for 24 years and I used to not be, right? So I work so hard every day to get to this point. It is every day that I lay my head down, I want to know that I did the best job and that people walked away with a great impact and great experience.
But that's one of the things you can't control.
And so that's why CJ said, what are you doing? I said, exactly.
You want to control an outcome. Like you
I know.
want, like when you, and speaking
I want
is
them
a very,
to like the
speaking is a
experience,
very
right?
big thing that like you expect like at a certain part when you're speaking that there will be a certain type of reaction. You're like, but what if there isn't that reaction? What if they don't really like my icebreaker? What if they really don't? What if they don't get what from this, what I want to get from, and it's like, you can't control that. And there will be people that walk out of the room that are like, that was such a waste of 2 hours that I was there. And I remember, we work with speakers and you probably have dealt with this too, that like they would get really obsessed with when after someone reviews them and rates them, there would be like 300 great
positive
jobs
and one bad one.
And one that was like, that girl was horrible. She dressed like a whatever. And I'm like, you don't know. I remember literally having this conversation with one of my talents. I said, you literally don't know that guy had a fight with his wife last night. He came into that room. He was already pissed off and whatever. And so he was like, what is it? Like people hear with their triggers? Is that something?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Like it was something like that.
Trigger.
And I was just like, but 300 people loved it. And you impacted 300 people. And then there was one guy that was a little crotchety. He could have been hungry. Like literally people are that sensitive. He could have been angry and hungry. And he's like, I didn't have breakfast this morning. And I just didn't want to pay attention and zoned out because my blood sugar was low. Like literally it can be that dumb.
Well, we did something years back and all these surveys came back and every one of them was a 10. And then there was a 7 and I'm going, 7? And then I realized, wait, it was the guy who was an engineer who's not even in sales. And we were talking about sales the whole time. And the reason he gave me a 7 is because it wasn't really for his role or his focus.
Really, like,
so he couldn't connect the dots. So he put it as a 7 because it wasn't hit for his role. So I was like, I need to stop taking that as a 7, that it was
Like
only
you're a
average,
7.
right? That
Well,
it was
it's that you're a
average.
7.
Yeah, that had nothing to
His
do with
experience
me.
was a 7.
Absolutely, because he couldn't connect with it. So when I start to think more a little bit realistically and logically, I don't even look at that stuff anymore. And I told my husband last week, I said, as soon as I get through my first session, I'm gonna be like, why did I even have that head trash creep in there? And it literally lasted for 5 minutes.
Yeah, that's so good, though.
And I said, but CJ, I think courage is, it's not an act of courage if it doesn't hurt a little bit, or if it's not a little fuzzy down there like butterflies. And you're growing every time you have some of those butterflies, because you're stepping out of your comfort zone and you're doing something in the face of uncertainty, right? So I looked at him and was like, CJ, I'm going to be over it. It's just, I want everybody to feel that they got what their investment, that return on investment. That's the pressure. That's the pressure I put on myself to go out there and crush it and give the people a show, right?
Yeah,
What they want. Give them what they want, and not a show, but just give them help and give them tools. So I know
you
I'm
want
gonna
them
do
to
that.
walk out. I always like, you want them to walk out of there feeling like they could kick a door off its hinges, like that they like you solved a problem for them. They like hear something and they go, I'm going to take that to my next meeting or my next work, like that they can directly connect how they're going to use something that you say. And my therapist was so funny. This is probably last year, I think, that she said this to me. She was like, Kristen, you only control 50%.
Absolutely.
She's like, so that's like right in that situation that it's like you can only control 50%
I was going to say,
of the
this is what we talked
relationship.
about earlier. Why do I put that pressure on myself? Because I know the tools work for all these other people, but they have to
also
implement it.
Well, and they have to be open and susceptible.
Vulnerable.
They have to come into a room with you knowing that they're not the best at sales.
Yes.
That there's always something that they can learn. So if they're automatically coming into a meeting with you and like say their employer signed them up for you, but if they're already coming in with that mindset, they're not open. They don't want to learn anything new.
Hostages. That's what we call them, hostages.
Yeah, it's just like they're not someone who's even gonna be a good candidate. They're not meeting you at that 50%.
Nope. And when I had someone look at me with his finger in my face years ago, I never met this guy, and he was mad, and I'm like, he must be mad for a reason, because we never met, right? And he was like, why should I buy from you? And he was yelling at me, and I looked at him and said, at this point, I don't think you should. I remember that fell out of my mouth, and I was like, did that just come out of my mouth? Because it's a strategy we teach, negative reverse selling. Do the opposite of what they expect.
Yeah.
He was expecting me to tell him all the reasons.
Yeah, I don't think that we are good
At
partners.
this point, I don't think we should, because I'm getting the impression that you don't want me here. And because we've never met, there has to be a reason for that.
Yeah.
Someone just like you promised me that we would triple our results after this year. He put me in a box of consultant, trainer, whatever.
You're like, okay, so you're mad at the other person, and you're projecting it and
so
taking it out on me.
So that makes sense. So what I'm hearing is someone overpromised, underdelivered. That's really frustrating. They were $2 million fresh in debt. They had to go from 30 to 9 employees. They had that burden. He was upset. He had families he had responsibilities for, employees. He was ticked. And I said, that would be disappointing. So I can totally understand that. He goes, so what are you going to do for us? What can you guarantee? I said, I can't guarantee anything. What happened last time when someone made a guarantee? I said, the only thing I can guarantee is that I'm going to show up, and I'm going to give the tools, and I'm going to give the training, and I'll be your support system. I will be the biggest cheerleader your company has ever known. But there's a 50-50 partnership.
Yeah. Your people need to
You have
come
to
and want
implement the tools. They have to want to
Yeah.
be here. They have to be able to be a little bit vulnerable and step out of their comfort zone, or it won't work. Everybody we work with, it's mutually beneficial, adult, and we all have a part in this to play. So if we can't agree to that, we're not going to succeed. And he was, like this, point at me, and all of a sudden he was like, kind of melted. We worked together for like 5 years.
Well, like
after
anger,
that.
like, and I don't remember if, I know I've learned this. Oh, I learned this in another management training, but you might have spoken on it as well. Is like when people are angry, that's just a very basic first emotion.
Absolutely.
And there's always something that's underneath anger.
Yeah.
You're either betrayal,
Absolutely.
you're sad, you're scared, you're fearful, there's something else going on. Anger is the easy part.
Absolutely.
Anger's the easy one. So it's
Thinking
like with
through
him,
what caused the root cause, I needed to know that. And he didn't come out and say that to me. He
but
was
right once he started telling the story, you're like,
That's
okay,
what-
we're disappointed.
And I asked. See,
Yeah.
most people wouldn't have ever gotten the chance to do that. Did you hear me say we worked together for 5 years after that? Most people would have never even gotten to the point to have the conversation, because even though he asked, what are you going to do for us? He was expecting me to tell. And instead, I asked.
Yeah, you got more curious.
Seek first to understand. Covey's Habits of Highly Effective People. I need to understand why you're so angry at me because we've never met and your other principal partners want me
it doesn't
here.
make sense.
What's
so
happening?
I need
Help me
more
understand. We call that the dummy tactic, right? Help me understand. I'm a little confused. I'm here for a reason that these guys, but you don't. We got to all be on the same page. There must be a reason you're so upset. Well, that's when the truth started coming. Then I couldn't. Frustrating, disappointing.
Yeah.
That's understandable. So all right, then what are you going to do? The traditional person would have said, here's what I'll do. Here's how I can be better than that other person. And they would have done just what the other schmuck did.
Well, here's the other thing that I found too is the reason why I don't go to like also bad mouthing somebody else is I'm like, that client might actually be the issue. Like the other previous person that was working with them, it's like, I don't know even anything about that. It's like when someone tries to trash an ex, right?
Absolutely.
They try to trash an ex and you're like, hold up.
I'm Switzerland most of the time.
I might be friends with
and people
the
don't
person.
like that. People don't like that when I try to seek to understand this side. I have had to play mediator and referee between so many parties and people my whole life. But as a coach who goes into I go into numerous organizations. We have roundtables. I have someone sitting here that I'm talking with. She's in tears. This person is being mean to me. They don't understand me. They do this. They don't think I can do this. And then I talk to the other person. Hey, she's doing so much. I don't want to put more on her plate.
Yeah.
I don't want to overwhelm her. Misconceptions. And then when I sit them around the round table, I'm like, I understand where both you ladies are coming from, but having conversations, I think we need to get this on the table because she cares about you. You care about her, and we're not caring about each other's thoughts and how we got here.
Yeah.
So we got to talk about it and clear this up. And they walk out there laughing like, oh, I didn't know you meant that. Or I didn't know that's what was in your mind. Because we got to talk.
Sure.
See, you and I are so like transparent and just put everything on the table. And most people, when they're feeling a certain way, they bottle it up instead of saying, hey, I don't like how I'm feeling. Can we talk about this?
Yeah.
Most people can't have those adult conversations.
Well, and I think like authenticity and like vulnerability, like especially on my LinkedIn, has just always been something. And it's funny that people ask me like, are you okay? And I'm like, what do you mean, am I okay?
I'm
said,
like a real human.
I said, you liked it. And then you commented underneath. I said, are you not feeling the same things? Do you not experience? They're like, yeah, I am. I said, okay, so I'm just the only one talking about
It's the transparency.
But I was like, you can't. I saw a quote the other day. I loved it. It was just like, you can't accuse me of anything and you can't like make me feel bad for anything that I am because I put it all out there.
Too.
I put it all out there. I literally have talked about the things I've done wrong. I've talked about the things I've done right. I've talked about the person I used to be, how I used to handle business, all these things. Like you can't get me.
You can't keep
I'm
persecuting and being a bully to someone who's not playing a victim. I'm just an adult.
It's just what I am and it's what I'm out there. But I have a question for you because it's not so for people listening to the podcast, it's not so much helpful for them to hear like, oh, the head trash only lasts 5 minutes. What's helpful for them is the head trash that lasted 5 years. So what was a head trash that you had, that something that used to get you deep for a long time?
There's quite a few. When people perceived me in the wrong way, when people said things about me that weren't true, when I thought that I didn't do a good job, I would kick myself. But it was almost always worried about other people's opinions and what other people were thinking. And I got to a point that most of those people's opinions, they weren't where they wanted to be in life and they weren't happy. So they were always going to look for someone to make them like to pick at, to make themselves feel elevated.
But how'd you get there though? Because that's not a quick train. Like, how did you get there?
A lot of training, I tell everyone I had an unfair advantage growing up with a father that I did because he was in, sales training, leadership, management, all these things that we do. But every person that comes to our room says we are life training. So we had these tools. I had these tools instilled at me from the time I was 11 years old, how to get rid of head trash. The IR theory that we talked about at the Women in Construction, about how to separate your role failures from who you are as a person. We come into this world as a 10. We're going to leave the world as the 10. And the people that are the most confident and project and see themselves as self-value and their worth is high and I'm a winner, they're going to perform like that naturally as a winner. And when they have bad days, they're going to say, I'm still a 10 and everybody has bad days, but I'm going to wake up tomorrow and get back to work so I can do better on my role side. But I used to let it affect me as a human, right?
Yeah.
At
and
a
how
deep
did you
level.
Because sometimes what I have found is that when I have this head trash, then I act and behave a way and like
that's not a winner.
Well, that enables it. Then, like for example, when and there's still sometimes you catch me on the wrong day, and I'll still get it.
It's the directness.
Yeah.
You can't. It's just in you. You can't help
like,
it.
There's sometimes it'll still get me. It'll sneak up on you.
Yes,
but,
absolutely.
Like
we're all human.
There's times that I would kind of get in my head about something like that, and then it would make me not want to go out and get more.
Sure.
Like it almost it affects your confidence to then go get
Absolutely.
more business.
That's what I say. When you have trash up here, you are not 100% focused on doing the right behaviors, that keeping the right strong mindset.
You're like only looking at that now, and you're like, okay, I don't. People are thinking that about me. I don't want to be like that. So then you almost overcommit to like other behaviors then that aren't
trying to compensate to prove yourself, right?
And then that's not good.
So when I say I grew up with this since I was 11, my dad taught us this whole concept of IR theory: separate yourself from your roles, because if you put a label on yourself that I sucked today, I was a failure today, I didn't do this well, that starts to like impact your intrinsic value as a human being, right? You can't wake up the next day and say, let's go get it, because you're so focused on what you did bad and what you did wrong or not great. So 11 years old, it took me till I was 27 to believe it. Now I had a lot of it in here, and I was always a go-getter and very goal-driven, and I've handled a lot of adversity since I was 18. I was a young mother, just a lot. So I remember trying to change people, trying to help people. Oh, because I'm like, you need to do this, help. And I was trying
There's a better way.
Yeah, let me help you, right? And I wanted to help people. And I realized first, Kate, you need to help yourself. You need to get to a place where others' actions and words don't shift your attitude and your behaviors. And I remember trying to change my husband, struggles with bipolar, all these things. And we're very good. We're married 28 years this year, but it was a long journey. And I remember trying to get him, you need help, this needs to be done. And he had to hit that rock bottom on himself to get help. I remember friends that I was trying to change and help.
It's so hard to let them run off the cliff when
Absolutely.
you know that they're running off the cliff.
This is impacting not you, my family, all these people. And I got to a point where it was like this light bulb went off, and I heard it for the 45th time at 27 years old. I'll never forget that moment. It was the moment that changed my life at 27. Sitting in the back of the room, I thought, Kate, you can't control if your husband gets help. You can't control your friends. You can't control your prospects, your customers, if people will buy from you, if people will like you. Control yourself, your mindset. Do the right things. Treat people well. Don't treat people poorly.
Lead as example.
Absolutely. Do what you can. And the shift, what happened is within the next year, I had a goal to be out of my first home at 30 years old. When I had that shift at 27, 6 months later, I was in a new home. I think the next year I doubled my revenue. My relationships were better. My husband got his help because he came to that conclusion.
On his own.
28 years later, here we are. But I was trying to tell people, I talk about this all the time. I used to be like, do this. My friends would come and say, oh, Kat, what should I do? This is what you should do when you're struggling. And they'd say, the bobblehead. Yup. And then what do you think happened when they walked out the door?
Well, they don't. It requires a lot of effort.
And
it requires a lot of effort.
Absolutely. And I remember my best friend constantly, very toxic relationship. We are best friends for probably 40 years this year. And she looked at me over and over. She'd come, Kat, what should I do? I said, here's what you should do. You should do this. You're absolutely right. She'd leave 6 months later, same conversation. I remember 18 months into it, I started to feel so guilty because I would never do this with customers or prospects or other people. And I remember she came to me and asked me the same question for the same 50 million time. And I finally looked at her and I said, that's a great question. What do you think needs to be done differently?
Yeah.
What do you think she listed?
Probably all the things that you said.
All the things I told her for 18 months. And I said, those sound like great ideas. How do you think you can do that? I know I can. Are you ready? I am. All right. I think you sound like you're committed to make a change. Do you feel it? I am. She made the change. She was a single mom, couldn't afford lotion. I mean, she lives in $1 million some house at the beach, has 2 businesses. She has a break.
Good for her.
She remarried. She has another child, 10 years, oh God, I can't even remember how old he is now. And like, she just completely changed her life. And I didn't help her. I stood in the way because I tried to tell her what to do instead of that self-discovery, that 80-20 rule. You tell someone what to do, it has a 20% stick factor. They come to that conclusion on their own. It has an 80% stick factor. And I got in the way of my friend's growth. And I kicked myself for that.
Yeah.
And I'll never, ever do that again. That was another learning lesson for me 15 years ago, right? So those are the things when you get sick of trying to help people that don't want to help themselves, or they do desperately, they just haven't come to that conclusion on their own. So all these little facts, 80-20 rule, I can't keep going around trying to help people. They have to help themselves. It has to come from them. That's the same thing with sales. I haven't sold a day in my life. I help people discover if it makes sense through the questions we ask, because they have to come through that self-discovery. Then they'll happily say, let's do this, versus a salesperson say, we should do this, right? So the head trash around can I change people? Can I help people? Oh, what if they don't like me? At the end of the day, if they do, they do. If they don't, I know it's not because of something I did or said, because I treat people with respect, kindness, and no judgment. So,
well, and that I think comes with like right there, you
Yeah.
know who you are.
absolutely.
There's like a coming into your identity of knowing exactly who you are and
Absolutely.
exactly who you're not. So that when someone, because I remember I was, oh my gosh, this was like right when I first started my business. And I think this was an example I gave you, that she was like, oh my gosh, talking to all sorts of people about different things that I was doing. And I was just like, that I was doing. And I was like,
Perception's reality
okay,
to some
girl,
people.
Sounds good. It was just, it was her perception of like
Absolutely.
things that I was doing. And I literally listened to her on the phone for like 45 minutes. And she's like, you are,
The word you.
and like, she just kept listing off these. And I remember just listening to her and I was just like, you don't even know me. Like, I've met you 2 times. I
Been
remember
there.
asking her on the phone being like, how and why do you hate me so much?
Yeah, where did this come from?
Like,
Jealousy.
you have 45 minutes. Like, think about that behavior. 45 minutes we've just been on the phone. And you just listed off, you are this. And to have so much anger and hatred for somebody that you've met twice, just like from passing at a networking event. Could you imagine?
No, because it takes too much energy.
Could you imagine?
No, and that word you, that is the word that has destroyed so many relationships and friendships. Because I had, not someone I met twice, I've had people in my life that have come at me accusing me of stuff that was so far off base.
Yeah.
You. And that was the last time I ever got hooked into the you phrase. Because when I had that one time with latent email, with you, email, even worse, you did this, you did that, none of which had happened.
Yeah.
And what did I do? I didn't have that 24-hour where I was like, how dare you?
Your
And
keyboard warrior.
the fight was on, and I remember my heart was pounding. So this was something else we talked about yesterday. I said, anytime, or a couple days ago, I said, anytime your ears get red, I said, you know your triggers. Someone's like, oh, my ears get red, my face gets red, my hands shake, my heart.
My shoulders.
Yes, so
tense up.
everybody knows how they get mad. So don't hit send, right? And I hit send, and I hated myself for it because I added fuel to that fire of those accusations with my response because it was so emotionally fueled. And I wanted to kick myself. I said, well, you blew that, Kate, because you couldn't control yourself. When someone else was going low, you tried to go even lower.
Yeah.
That was probably 16 years ago, and I've never, ever once reacted in that way again because I hated the way I felt afterwards.
Because you're only representing you at that point.
Absolutely.
Like,
and it was all
what they
false
said,
anyway.
yeah.
That wasn't true. So why did I play into that?
Well, it hit one of your core
Yes.
things. Like, my thing is always
dare
like,
you?
how dare you tell me who I am? But like when you are so secure in what your identity is and who you are, and you know yourself, this is exactly who I am, this is exactly who I'm not. There's some things that people could come at me for that I could like. It can maybe put like a little chink in my armor, but there's some that it's like, no, like no, like you're a bad leader. Like if someone came to me like that, I'd be like, okay, try another one. Like there's a lot of things I'm bad at, but like leadership is not one, right?
Obviously.
Like, and there's certain things that it's just funny when people do that.
I had someone say that I don't teach any sales strategies. They have tactics. It's not strategies. It's only, they have like one component. And I'm like, and it's funny because they told one of my customers that. And the funniest part is on that customer's huge community room whiteboard, it was a whole list of 10 strategies we just walked through, selling strategies. And they said, I didn't go in-house and work with companies, so I'm not that valuable because companies want that. I've been going in-house there for 2 to 3 days a month for 15 years. And that's all we do is work on strategy. So it made me laugh because
Like,
it made them look
insane.
silly. How did you come to that
know.
conclusion? Who told you this?
I know, but it's like so insane though. The depth and distance that some people will go.
And that's what, and
Could you
there was
imagine being so angry at someone all the time?
or just that's how you're going to try to earn business by throwing someone else under the bus with facts that aren't even facts.
Which is something that I've really had to like settle in on, is that when somebody does things like that, the people that believe them.
Yes.
I don't want to do business with you anyway. You're not someone who's in my circle.
Or you don't really truly
you
know
don't
and
truly
trust,
know me.
right?
You aren't like, if you are that weak, if you are
Absolutely.
that weak that somebody could say, like if I have an extended period of experience with you and you're so weak that someone can drop one piece of information and then you just
It blows everything out of the water
like,
that we built. Yeah.
That's not something
That's
with me.
hurtful to me. And that's happened so often, Kristen. So I'm glad you brought that up because that was something that I used to think, don't you know me? And then I'm like, obviously not to the depth of what I thought. And I used to get
I don't
people
even know
say,
that
why
it has
don't
anything
you
to do with us. Like,
I don't. It's deep rooted. It's themselves. It's the IR theory, and it goes back to they see themselves as here.
Yeah.
So if it's someone else is at that same level, it's sick.
It's
but it
misery
makes them
loves
feel
company.
better. And
I think that's part of it too. Misery just loves company.
And that's what I finally got okay with.
Yeah.
I don't want to be miserable. And that's not the kind of company I keep. I will cheer for anyone and everyone.
Mm-hmm.
You know, my best friend, when she didn't have anything, I was cheering for her. She sent me a message 2 days ago, and she's really going through some other changes and uncertainties, and she's doubting herself. And I said her father had passed away a few years back, who was like a second father to me. And she said, Kate, she called me Kitty. So she said, Kitty, I'm really nervous. I hope this all works out. I go, girl, you made it happen. Your decisions, the hard work, everything you did as a single mother when you had no money.
Yeah.
Look what all your decisions led to get you here. You have done the right things for the last 25, 30 years to get to this point.
Yeah.
Why do you think that's going to fail you now? You got this. She's like, you're always the one to lift me up. And I'm like, I am so happy for her. And she's living her best life. Like, I wish I was living down at the beach and had some of the stuff, but I am not jealous. I am proud of her. I'm happy because I see where she comes from. That's what used to hurt me.
Yeah.
Because I struggled so much.
When someone was like jealous or something, or what do you mean?
In life, I struggled, hateful, or just talked about me because if they thought I changed. I had a baby at 18. I had a mortgage at 19. I worked 2 jobs till I was 27. I went through hell for a decade because of just a lot of reasons. And those people that were in my lives that saw how bad it was and saw me working 2 jobs to do the right thing to support my family. And then I had another child at 22, 23. And all I was doing was working and trying to be the best version of myself. So I was growing and working on myself and getting out of the debt and all the things that happened because of my young age circumstances. So when I hit that 27 and the light bulb went off and I was like, I'm not going to do this anymore.
Yeah.
I'm going to keep growing. As soon as I got out of the darkness and things started turning and I got a new house and I was starting to get successful and I actually could pay my bills, all those things happened. That's when people didn't like it because they weren't changing. They weren't growing and they were trying to say that I changed. Why? Because I have a house, like a house, and I can.
But you did,
and I can pay my bills, and I absolutely.
and that's I think going back to like the everybody should
Absolutely. But at the end of the day, if they're not going to, don't point the finger at me and say I'm a bad person or I'm different because I got help and I got changed. I changed and I got better. Absolutely. And I started not getting so emotional. I was an emotional basket case. Like those are good things. And I still love you and I'm going to cheer for you.
Some people don't want you to do well though.
They think when you're doing well, you look down on them or they're not as good enough. You are good because you're a person. You're a human being, regardless of your stature, your money, anything like that. I talk to every person I meet, every animal I meet, and I don't judge people based on their background, their stature, their money, their income. I base people on their character and their heart. So that's what hadn't changed for me. And I thought the only thing that changed was the money, the house that I worked my butt off for, that nothing was handed to me. I've worked since I was 15 years old. So it's like, am I getting dragged because I'm successful?
Well, that's like the funny thing that I like think about jealousy and envy, right?
Yeah.
That I talked about this on another podcast, but it's just like that there are people that literally just hate your existence.
They do.
Like they literally just hate that you're breathing. Like you could breathe and they hate you.
Yeah.
And like you could do nothing, you could say nothing, you could be at your absolute worst, but you're breathing. And like that's enough for them to hate you. And like the jealousy and the envy part I find is so interesting of like high performers or just like people in a certain circumstance. And like even let's say somebody's jealous of me for whatever it is. Like it could be the way that I look, it could be my business, it could be whatever it is. And it's like, do you know the amount of work do you know the amount of work, the amount of heartbreak, the amount of responsibility, the amount of burdens I carry, the sacrifices, like the things that I have to do to be
who you are,
who I am and where I am.
Yeah.
Like that is just so insane. It's like we could trade for just a little. I know. Just so you could see. It's like Wife Swap. I wish Wife Swap. Do you remember that show, Wife Swap? I wish that existed with like people. Like you could just switch places, like Freaky Friday. You could just switch places for like a little while.
Walk in someone's shoes.
Walk in someone else's shoes and just be like, I don't know that you. And that's not me saying I don't like my life or I don't like what I've done, but I do recognize the amount of work that goes into it.
Exhausting.
I told CJ. There's sometimes I wish I could be like.
Exactly. I told CJ, I was like, I wish I could just go to a 9-to-5 job like
Literally.
my husband and come. And he's not like that because he's on call a lot. And I said, I wish I could go home and shut things off and not wake up at 5 a.m. and start answering LinkedIn messages and what should I do with this and what should I said, I wish I could be that person, but I'm not. But I'm not going to knock others who aren't.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. They don't recognize the sacrifices. They don't recognize the hard work because it's so foreign to them because they don't have that drive. Yeah. And that's okay.
And
I'm not judging you for that.
Good.
I'm sitting here saying, I wish I didn't have the Sometimes I feel like I'm crazy. And I tell CJ, I need to chill. I'm OCD. I'm ADD. I am super goal driven. Yeah. I have no chill. I blame it on my dad. My sister and I joke, we didn't inherit generational wealth. We inherited generational work ethic. Yeah, we just don't know how to stop, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And I always say, I wish I could chill because I feel like I'm missing out on relationships and people who I dearly love.
Or being like, okay with exactly where you are. Or like,
and not having to push the envelope and get to the next level every day of your life. Oh I wish I had that.
Yeah.
I don't. Same. And I won't judge other people who don't. Yeah. And I wish they wouldn't judge me.
Yeah. Because it's like, it's not all it's cracked up to be.
It's
like
not.
there's times that it is, like when you see the fun stuff on social media and I go on the cool trips and I work with the clients. But there's so much that happens behind the scenes.
Yeah.
And then I think that's funny that there's times that we wish of the other. That
I
I'm
wish
like,
all the time.
Yeah. Like sometimes I wish that like, and I would say like in this dating season of my life, like not being married or whatever, there's sometimes that I wish that I'm like, kind of just wish that I wanted to just be a mom. Not just a mom. I'm not, you know what I mean? But like, I want to be, my mom, you know, was a stay-at-home mom.
So was my mother, right?
So like, sometimes I wish that was what I wanted.
Your passion. Yeah.
And like, do I still want to be a mom? Sure. Do I still want to have kids? Yeah. Sure. If it happens, it happens. But it's like, I have this like burn in me constantly to achieve and grow and like, part of me wishes sometimes that I wasn't made like that.
And Kristen, I say to this day, I was never the girl who grew up and wanted to be married and have children. Ever. I was supposed to be.
And then you did it at 18.
I was supposed to be a marine biologist. I was literally supposed to be on my way back to Coastal Carolina.
Having a baby.
Absolutely. I was supposed to be going to Coastal Carolina for marine biology, and a lot of things happened. And I was at like 3 weeks of senior week, I think. And I was a wild girl. And I remember feeling sick, and I took this test and I thought, oh shoot, I'm gonna have a baby. Like what? And I look back at it because it's the greatest role of my whole life, like other than being a wife and you know, but being a mother, which I didn't have any goal. It wasn't what a lot of people I know dream. That's all they think of growing up, and that's wonderful. I didn't, and I say to this day, thank God I did, because I was made to be a mother. I don't know if I would have stopped to be a mother. So my life would be different. Right, so that's why I have good friends just very similar to you, and I watched their trajectory, and they were late 30s when they had their children, and 37, 38, 40, and they are the best mothers. They are traveling Dubai, all over the world, and these girls are going with them and experiencing stuff. So I can picture you
baby,
being
we're going to Mexico.
Oh yeah, that's gonna be you. So you can do it all.
We're going to the beach, and my baby's in my little chair next to me.
Absolutely. But I realized really quickly when I had, just because I was a good mother, I was involved. I coached basketball. I did all these things. But when I was in my career, I had to kind of put the brakes on that. I wasn't at the level I'm at now, because the minute I became a mother, I thought, okay, those people count on me. They come first. And I still wanted a career. And there's only been 3 weeks since I was 15 that I didn't work. And I remember sitting with my 3-year-old. I was getting out of the restaurant business, and I thought I was going to own a restaurant. And I remember sitting watching Blue's Clues for 3 weeks, and I'm going,
I'm going to kill someone.
I'm going to break a TV. I don't know what to do. Like, I got to get out of here.
Memorized the intro and outro.
I was like, I can't
Blue's
do
Clues.
this anymore.
All of your outfits are striped.
Absolutely. And there was always stuff on me, food on me. And I thought, okay, I love being a mother, but I want to be passionate and not resent this. I am also a career, like I need to work. So that's when I went to my dad. I said, I can do what you do. And he patted me on the head. He's like, okay, prove you can sell, and then I'll let you train and coach. And I said, okay. So that's where my journey kind of started, but my path was not to be a successful entrepreneur, coach, trainer, things like that. I started just to shift with the time, and you'll know what's right for you when it happens, because half the things you plan in life don't happen anyway. I found that out like, boom, real quick. So you adjust, right?
Mhm.
And that's why whenever you're meant to have a family, if you're meant to have a family, it will happen and you'll adjust and you'll crush it. You're going to kick ass as a mom if you're ever a mom. And like I said, you can do it all. And I remember going to Sandler conferences. We get these awards every, 3 times a year. And I'd stand up and I'd get these awards. And I was getting the same awards working part-time as some of these other men and women
Yeah.
that were doing this full time because as a mother, and they're like, how's she doing that working
Mhm.
part time? I said, because when I'm focused, I'm focused.
Yeah.
I'm a mother here. I'm a salesperson
You have
here.
all your roles. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I'm going to put every intent I have and I'm going to do the right things with no distractions so I can still be a great salesperson and a great mother. So many people think you got to be one or the other and you can have it all.
Well, that's like the work-life balance thing. It's just
Yes.
like people are like work and life balance. And it's just like you can't like put something on the shelf and then like go be your other role. Like you're
Mm-mm.
always all of it.
You are. And that's why that's the people that their authentic self, right?
Mhm.
I am who I am when I'm at home. Now, am I a little bit more extra when I'm at home and over the top and
Sure.
more, Kate and spontaneous and impulsive when I'm around family and friends or by the pool or on vacation? Absolutely. But I know, that comes out in me when I'm training too. People can see who
Yeah.
I am. I don't try to put on a show or a facade. I am a little extra. I'm a little wild and I'm a little rambunctious. So that's who I am. Do I know how to tone it down? Yeah. But I don't want to tone it down too much because then I become someone I'm not.
Yeah.
And if you don't like me for who I am, then you're not going to like me.
I know, but that
'Cause I
pressure
can't
of
help
like
it.
watering, I remember doing that for a long
No.
time, like watering myself
No.
down, like being, and I even to this day, I do it on social media a bit, like on like Instagram or someplace, like I'm just like, oh, am I going to be too much or am I going to be whatever? But it's just like that.
You'll be too much for the people that can't handle it.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, if they can't handle it, it's not your problem.
Yeah. You're just like, but the other people will be like, I found my person. She gets me.
Yes.
She understands. She like this.
We have a 50-50 chance in life of someone, really resonating and liking us. And
Yeah.
if they do, they do. If they don't, that's okay. They'll resonate with something else, or maybe they don't resonate with anything. And that's where you
That's
can't.
okay.
That's sad to me, but it is, right?
Yeah.
It is what it is. So why would we dilute ourselves to try to fix someone and make someone feel a certain way that we'll never succeed in that?
Yep.
That will never succeed. So yeah, I got to a point where I'm like, you're going to love me, you're going to hate me, you're going to understand me, or you're not. And at the end of the day, I'm going to love myself and I'm going to understand my motives and I can lay my head on the pillow at night because then I've done the right things.
Mhm.
I'm not trying to do something just to make someone happy because that wouldn't be my authentic self.
Sure.
So it is
I
what it
love
is.
it.
My mom always said, it is what it is. Build a bridge. Get over
Build a
it.
bridge.
That's her saying. She's like 5'1" and she's so cute. And she's always like, build a bridge. If people they need to get over it. And she used to
Literally.
joke all the time about that.
Well, I was telling Carolyn just yesterday about just my parents, like growing up, and I was telling them how like my mom, I've always been someone who questioned authority ever since a young age.
Mhm.
And like my mother was someone that like literally she was telling us the story. Well, it was just there's so many. But like I was the kid that, and I remember I told Carolyn exactly, I remember it would have been like maybe first, second, third grade, something like that. It was whenever Mulan came out.
Uh-huh.
I was watching Mulan. My mom got a phone call from the principal.
Mhm.
I pulled a girl off the slide by her hair because she kept sliding down the slide and then
Mhm.
crawled up from the bottom of the slide and kept,
That's not how you do things.
that's unfair.
That's
So I
not
grabbed
justice.
her by her hair and I pulled her off the slide. And I remember
I
it.
used to be a fighter. So I'm just,
Literally.
like, laughing.
I remember it. And then there was another story. And then I was just like, but that was like, my parents like really pushed us to like stand up for yourself
Yes.
and say things. And it didn't matter if it was a kid
Uh-huh.
or an adult,
Mhm.
which like was good for a lot of things.
Mhm.
But like there was a time with my brother that I remember it was a lunch lady. And I don't even know how we got on this topic, but there was a lunch lady and she was like, Kyle, I can't hear you. I can't hear you. Speak up. And so he was like, Mom, I'm talking my voice. Like I'm saying as loud as I can. And then my mom said to call her an idiot. He said, okay, idiot. And then she was like, excuse me? And he's like, I thought you couldn't hear me.
Oh, my
He is a
gosh.
single digit age.
Mm-mm.
And my mother was like,
Oh, yeah.
I look forward to hearing from the principal's office. Because she was like targeting Logan or
Yeah,
Kyle and embarrassing
embarrassing
him in front of. But it was just like I grew up with those types of parents, and it's just so funny now as an adult that it's like you fear no one. Like you fear
Yeah.
no one. I've been trying to call Sylvester Stallone and get in touch with his team for like the last 3 weeks?
Can I come?
Sure.
I'm like Rocky obsessed.
Well, that's what
I still work out to the Rocky soundtrack from when I was little.
I love that. We're trying to like get him involved in
Come
this.
on, Sly, let's go.
Come on, we need you. Tag him in this, Gina. But like we're trying to get him because we have this little boy who's this nonprofit that we're a part of, and he's like he's 7, and like he has this rare form of muscular dystrophy, and he is like his number one fan. Like his whole thing is flexing and like Rocky, and I'm like, come on,
yeah, we
I
gotta
just need
flood
a video.
social media.
I don't need you to come.
Oh, he would. I could see him doing a video if we could just capture his attention. I'm sitting here
but
going
I have
through my
messaged
mind.
his manager, his agent,
Yeah.
his publicist, his team, like his whatever. And so it's just, but my point with this is like, I'm not scared. Like you were just, I'm not scared of you. Like I just, and I'm not intimidated. I'm just like, I got to get in touch with this guy.
Call to the top. That's what
I got to get in touch with
I
this
always
guy.
tell people when they're like, we always say veto. Very important top officer. Sly's the veto right now. Like I got to get a hold of him, and people would look at me like, you call to the top. I call to like this person. Like why would you call there? They can say no. They can't say yes. Like let's get the real people. So that's that no fear of hi. We got a visitor.
A sleepy nap, girl.
So yeah, I think we need to get a hold of Sly. That would be really cool.
We do. I love it. Hi. All right, where do we want to end? Do you have anything?
Look, she's like, we're done. My nap's
over.
over.
I'm done with my nap. I'm ready to go. Anything else that you think is important? Like if you could leave your, I got one. Your younger head trash self.
Yes.
What would you tell her now that you're the 3 minutes versus the 3 years?
The quicker you get this, the better vacations you're gonna be. No, I'm just kidding. I had no money.
You can relax on the beach.
I had no money for the first 10 years out of high school. So it was like I didn't do the things that I'm freed up. The flexibility. When you have flexibility, you have freedom.
Yeah.
You can't be flexible when you have head trash.
Oh.
Flexibility equals freedom. Freedom to do whatever you want. I love giving. I love helping people in need. I love, helping someone who's unfortunate. I love traveling. I love making memories with my family. I couldn't do those things when I didn't have money.
Sure.
So to me, head trash stood in the way of me being successful because you heard once I got rid of it, doubled my sales and tripled them, bought a new home, everything changed, started being able to take my family on vacations, doing things I otherwise wouldn't have done. So I realized the more flexible I was with my being okay with things, I would have more freedom. So,
that's so good.
If you can't be flexible and, take a path over here when everybody's trying to force you that way, you're not going to have the freedoms that you want to enjoy your life. Change your perspectives, you change your life. Is that a good way to end?
That's
Is that
such
a good way to end?
I love it. I love it. How do you want people, if there's somebody, I imagine there's going to be people that are going to listen to this and go, I got to get in touch with her.
Sure.
Without giving, obviously, personal contact information. What would you prefer?
I always tell people if they're on LinkedIn, I'm on LinkedIn. If they, as Kate Kohler, so on LinkedIn is the easiest way. If they're on there, my email address, should I just give that? No? Okay.
Just spell your last name for them. So
Kohler, Kohler.
Yes.
And I'm with Stahlman Associates, LLC, stay on their training. So Google it. LinkedIn.
Or reach out to me and I can get you in
can
touch too. I got her email, I got her phone, I got everything. But thank you so much for coming today.
Thank you for having me.
This was a blast.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for coming.
Yes, you're welcome.
I really
Thanks for having
appreciate
me.
it. And thanks to everybody listening. And we look forward to another episode.
All right.
Do, do, do.